Okay, hi everyone. It is Rosa from Our Lives Matter, and we're going to go ahead and get cracking. I just want to say thank you to everyone who follows the page, who likes the page. We have over 20,000 subscribers now, so thank you for everyone who's liking the page, sharing the page, and getting the word out. All right. Now, the first story we're going to be going to talk about is it's an international story. It comes out of Toronto, Ontario, and it is actually a law enforcement involved killing of a 29-year-old Black woman. Again, this is out of Toronto, Ontario. It happened yesterday evening. Uh, Toronto police were called to a high-rise residence, um, and it's unclear as to what the event was surrounding why they were there at the apartment. But anyway, the mother of the victim is saying that once the Royal Canadian Police came inside the apartment, they observed the woman on the balcony, the young lady on the balcony. A short time later, she had fallen over the balcony. Now, mind you, they lived on the 24th floor. And of course, she fell to her death and she was pronounced dead at the scene. Now, the authorities are not confirming what happened, so that's why it's a hit or miss around what actually happened. Now, there's a video with her brother, saying that she was murdered. Also, the mother is claiming that the officers actually killed her daughter and pushed her over the balcony or shoved her off of the balcony. Her mother is seen saying in the video. Also, she says that law enforcement told news outlets not to come to the scene because it was a suicide. And the mother said they said that in order to cover up the fact that they actually killed her daughter. Again, this is a 29-year-old Black woman out of Toronto, Ontario, by the name of Regis Paquette. Just again, these international stories, Black women all over the globe, Black femicide is a problem. Nobody really wants to acknowledge it when you start talking about England, America, or Canada, because these are so-called first world countries as opposed to Africa and China and India and all these countries. Now, our next story actually is out of DC. An 18-month-old little baby girl was stabbed around 5:50 yesterday evening. The suspect is being detained. They're not releasing the information who the suspect is, but again, this gender-based violence and child abuse in the Black community is something that we need to start paying close attention to, bringing attention to, and sounding the alarm, especially as it involves our little girls, because our little girls are the gateway to the future. They are the birth canals. They are the mothers. Again, an 18-month-old girl was stabbed in Northeast DC, and the girl was conscious and breathing when they took her to the hospital. There's no further word on her condition, if it has been upgraded or downgraded. So again, 18 months old, what in the heck could have happened with that situation? Now, our next story is just a little something, just an FYI for those who have HBO or HBO Max. The documentary that surrounds the sexual abuse allegations with Russell Simmons. Of course, we know Oprah Winfrey pulled out of that because of pressure from, I don't know who. She stated that she pulled out of the documentary because there were some inconsistencies, but the word is that she was receiving pressure from some high-powered people. Anyway, HBO ended up picking up the story on the record, and they are actually going to be running it. The It centers around Miss Dixon. Drew Dixon. She's 48. She says Russell Simmons raped her back in '95 while she was a rising A&R exec at his company Def Jam Records. She didn't speak about the incident for like over 20 years, fearing, that saying anything against the godfather of hip hop again would amount to a betrayal of the community, because she didn't want to let the culture down. See, that's the thing about Black women. We have this like we're the ones who are the protectors of the culture despite all of the abuse that we go through. And that's really what this documentary is going to go into. So if you have HBO Max, the documentary is going to be called On the Record. And again, it's going to be closely following Dixon before, during, and after her decision to go public with her accusations, when she went public with them in December of 2017, when she released that article to the New York Times. And it also speaks on the testimonies of 7 other women who also say that they were raped by Simmons, including Jenny Lamette, the former assistant and model Seal Abrams, and the hip hop artist Sherry Hines. Of course, he's denied all accusations and saying that, basically he lives a Buddha lifestyle. Yeah. Just watch the documentary and judge for yourself. All right. And our next story involves another incident of a Black woman being punched violently, unarmed woman being punched and tased by cops in Michigan. This is out of Ypsilanti. It's a little small suburb. I wouldn't even really say it's a small suburb. It's it's very poverty stricken area. But anyway, a woman and her husband refused to leave the scene of a shooting that happened out in Ypsilanti, and an unidentified white officer could be seen on video walking up to her. First he swipes at her. He didn't land a punch, but then he grabbed her, lifted her off her feet, slammed her to the ground, struggled with her. Then he started punching her in her head and face, and eventually a taser was used. It's been posted on social media and it's going viral, but again, it's going viral among Black women. So nobody's really talking about this. Maybe some of the followers of the page may have heard about it, and some of the followers of Rwanda's page also may have heard about it. But again, we are naming the problem. Police brutality also happens to Black women. Nobody wants to address that. They want to constantly make the face of police brutality Black men, when we know that we also suffer these horrific crimes, because we are always at the forefront of these marches, protests, and what have you when police violence occurs in the Black community. Now, our next story is really just an update about what you need to know about the ongoing investigation so far about Breonna Taylor. So right now, as it stands, the 3 officers who were involved are still placed on administrative duty, I guess desk duty, because of the ongoing investigation. But it's been announced the internal investigation is going to be turned over to the Office of Attorney General Daniel Cameron. From different people that I know out in Louisville, they're saying that Daniel Cameron is as crooked as they come. So they really don't have much stock in what he will be doing with this investigation. But something to just keep your eye on is that the FBI, the Louisville field office, has announced it is launching its own investigation, independent investigation, into her death. Now, the FBI said they're going to collect all available facts and evidence, and they will ensure that the investigation is conducted in a fair, thorough, and impartial manner. And that's what the FBI Louisville field office said in a statement. And since this, is an ongoing investigation, they're not able to comment any further at this time. But I just want to keep you abreast of what's going on with Breonna Taylor, because nobody's really talking about what's going on with that case currently. As with everything, when it involves us, maybe 24 to 72 hours, we might get some stuff stirred up on social media, but it quickly dies down. And I plan to continue posting about her and other victims of law enforcement violence and crimes against any Black woman or girl. Now, one more thing I want to say about that I said to Rwanda right before we started the show is that I want you all to pay attention, Black women. You can leave it right there, Rwanda, where you had it. The judge signed a motion to dismiss charges against Kenneth Walker. That was Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, who supposedly, he was defending himself. And, for all intents and purposes, I get it. It was a no-knock warrant. They came in, blindsided him and Breonna, and he did what, any man would do, or anyone, who has a weapon legally would do, legally or illegal for that matter, is defend their house and home. Anyway, I want to bring this up because it's just something that bothers me a little bit. While what happened to him, him being arrested and charged with attempted murder, but those charges are now being dismissed, which of course is making way for the legal proceedings to move forward, that this was an unlawful death, is the fact that just notice how, once again, Black men are being centered in an issue that involves a Black woman. She's dead. Black men are not really talking about her. They rallied around him and made sure that, petitions, all of these things were being done for him. And again, as someone pointed out, true to form, Black men are in protection of their image mode, pushing a narrative that Breonna's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, was protecting her. Now, according to some of the facts that were released, Walker initially named the one, he initially said that Breonna was the one who shot at the police, and he was not really protecting her, he was hiding behind her. So even when a Black woman is shot, Black men make it about themselves and their collective, which is why I want Black women to start focusing their energy on our own collective. That's really all I have to say about that. We need to be hyper-focused on how things are going as it relates to crimes against us, and how Black men and their handmaidens center Black men. All right. This next story, you can scroll down once again to the one more time. This young lady is Frankia Mathurin. She's 32, and she was shot. I believe she was shot in the head. And she was shot by an acquaintance. So far, they have not given a mug shot, so I don't have any identifying information on him. But the suspect in the murder is a 30-year-old Kendrick James Nattle. He was arrested on Wednesday in Dallas, uh, and he's currently in custody at the Dallas County Jail, where he will await extradition to Travis County, and he has a bond set at $500,000. He shot her in the head and torso, and she was pronounced dead at the scene. Now, the Pflugerville Police Department are saying that the victim and Nato knew each other, and there was some sort of verbal disturbance between the two before the shooting occurred. Now, what that shooting was about, or what that argument was about, is, still, hasn't been released to the public. Oh, and this week so far, our count is 340 Black women and girls have been murdered as of today, and 337 were murdered by Black men. So remember that number, 340. Our next story is going to be out of Peoria. When you get down to it, I'll tell you when to stop. But it's right there. This is out of Peoria, and this is Miss Shauna Curry. She was a 34-year-old female, Black woman. I don't really care for saying female. She was a woman, and she was found in her car early Sunday morning, and they are treating it as a homicide. They found her unresponsive in the passenger side of a car in the driveway out in Peoria about 7 o'clock in the morning. They said she suffered a single gunshot wound to the head, as well as blunt force head trauma. They don't have any suspect information or anything. All they're asking for is that if anyone with information, they're asking them to contact the Peoria Police Department at 309-673-4521, or you can call Crime Stoppers anonymously at 309-673-9000. Again, this is Shauna Curry, a 34-year-old Black woman out of Peoria, Illinois. Whew. Now, our next story is just disgusting, is one way to put it. This happened out in Milwaukee. How old is this man? I believe he's 34 years old. Anton Beasley faces 3 counts of kidnapping, trafficking of a child, and second-degree sexual assault of a child under 16. He faces those charges because he grabbed a 15-year-old girl walking, and he forced her into his truck. He drove her to a hotel. Now, the media, of course, says forced her to have sex, but come on now, that's rape. They need to say what it is and stop mincing words. He forced her into the hotel and then proceeded to rape her. Now, the girl was a vulnerable person because she left her group home. So with him knowing that, he probably felt that, oh, she has nobody out there. She doesn't have any family. Nobody cares about her. And he was going to try and sex traffic her. The girl said he began calling people, asking them to book him a hotel and asking her if she wanted to make money. He told her she would have sex with men and she could set the prices herself, and, just a bunch of vile things. Now, he had a friend book him a room at an American hotel. Now, the friend was a woman. Again, another handmaiden out there in the community, being complicit with the willful violation of a 15-year-old. I'm not sure if they have arrested that person or not, but someone told me that she was, but I can't find any information related to that, although she needs to be arrested if that is indeed true. But it was a woman who rented the room for him. Now, after he raped the girl, she says she somehow managed to ask the manager if he would let her make a phone call. And she called her friends, and she went back to the group home where she called her friends. Now, the prosecutors did say that surveillance video showed his truck parked next to a vehicle of the woman who did indeed rent the room for him. It had also showed him and the 15-year-old exiting the truck and entering the hotel. So he uh, arrested on May 15th, and he has a preliminary hearing scheduled for tomorrow. And he has a cash bond set at $50,000. So it's just disgusting with the sex trafficking and everything that's going on in the community, and people trying to act like these girls are fast and they wanted it, and just exonerating these pedophiles, because the man is a pedophile flat out. He's a sex predator pedophile. Now, the next story, I didn't get a chance to put her picture up, but this next story is out of Tallahassee. This is another Black woman that was actually killed yesterday in Tallahassee. Her name, now this story is kind of, just follow me. She's gender nonconforming. So she looks like she gives off the appearance of a man, but if you look closely, you can see that she's a woman. And she would call herself Tony the Tiger, but her name is Natasha Shauna McDade, but she goes by Tony McDade on Facebook. Now, this story is really multi-layered. She just got out of release from federal prison not too long ago. She was involved with people that she, trusted and whatnot, and they ended up turning on her. 4 men jumped her 2 days ago, and she became so upset about this, with everything that had been happening, trusting people stealing from her. Basically, she just was at her wit's end. Now, there is a video on her Facebook page if anybody wants to go to that Facebook page and listen to her. She goes on to tell her story about when she was 5 years old. She had that's when she lost her virginity, but she was raped. I mean, of course, she lost her virginity, but the way she said it, was very confusing. But anyway, she said she had been raped on and off for like 12 years of her life, which I believe led to this, gender identity, non-conformity confusion. Because a lot of times, now, speaking as a medical professional, a lot of people who go through these issues of rape and molestation, they feel that the only way to make themselves invisible to these predators is to take on a male persona and to hide that femaleness. So they feel that they'll be less vulnerable. But anyway, she was involved in a fight. She actually got to safety, and she made this hour-long Facebook page where she goes on to tell about her vulnerability. She ends up going back and getting one of the people who beat her. She ended up slitting their throat. They did end up dying. But in the video, she says that she wasn't going back to prison. So basically, she committed suicide by cop. Could they have handled the situation differently? Possibly, because from videos and eyewitness accounts, they're saying that she didn't present any harm to the police, that as soon as police saw her, they just unloaded 7 or 8 rounds, and she died right there on the scene. But this is another incident of a law enforcement involved killing of a Black woman that's not really getting any traction. Had this been a Black man, I mean, he could have slaughter the whole family, and it would be some hashtag free Ray Ray. But because it's a black woman, nobody's saying anything. I mean, we've had like 4 law enforcement involved with black women this week, and nobody's talking about it. Now, our next case, this is another doozy. This man is accused of 3 rapes. A 29-year-old man, Kano Demetrius Brown. He was arrested out of Fort Pierce, Florida, I believe. And yeah, it's out in Florida. He was being arrested for 3 counts of sexual battery, 3 counts of kidnapping, and 1 count of aggravated battery. Now, all of those cases go back to 2016, but the case apparently picked up speed last month when a woman came forward with some allegations against her. They started comparing her case against other open cases, realized there were similarities in the cases from 2019 and 2016. They gathered DNA evidence and they linked him to all 3 cases. But now, while he's sitting in jail, the very next day, an apartment complex where this 29-year-old guy lived, he asked family members. The apartment complex called his family to tell them they needed to remove his car last Thursday. Relatives got the car, noticed a strange odor coming from the trunk, opened up the trunk, found a dead body of a missing woman that was reported last Wednesday. So now, not only is he being held on all of these rape charges that stem between 2019 and 2016, now he's also being charged with felony murder. And the autopsy proved that she died from injuries consistent with his violent attacks reported by other victims. So they're trying to piece together a timeline on Brown and this dead woman's whereabouts before her death. And, you know, the sheriff is hoping with him behind bars, other people or other victims won't be afraid to come forward. So the sheriff's office out of St. Lucie County in Florida is asking anyone any woman or whoever, to come forward with information, and they can call 772-462-3230. And I honestly believe with this man, there have got to be more than 4 victims, because, I mean, it's just, he has such a heinous pattern, and eventually it led up to this woman's murder, which, you know, it's just, it's just crazy that his family had to be the one to find this dead woman's body in the trunk of his car. You know, we need to start talking about this violence. I say this every week. We need to talk about this sexual violence and insanity that's going on in the Black community that people refuse to address with these Black men. This is not something that people want to keep this lie going that only white folks do it, only white men do it. The Black community has a problem. And with all these missing girls, all of them are not sex trafficked. I honestly believe that some of them are the victims of murder. The Black community is a breeding ground for serial killers. There are more Black serial killers in our communities than people want to give credit for. And in fact, I'm assisting a sister with doing a write-up on Black serial killers, because people don't believe fat meat is greasy. And our next story comes out of South Fulton and down in Georgia. This man, Marlon Payne, is 26. He's facing charges of aggravated sexual battery, more sexual violence, sexual battery, enticing a child, statutory rape, child pornography, child molestation, aggravated sodomy, and contributing to the delinquency of a minor in connection with a case of a 15-year-old victim as a result of an investigation. And it was the third case this month out of South Fulton with human trafficking. And it's all of these cities, especially these cities where it's predominantly Black, we have a lot of sex trafficking down in like Fulton County, Atlanta, Detroit, New York, Dallas, all of these places, all of your major cities, Las Vegas. These are hubs of sex trafficking. And I know Michigan is near the top of it because Detroit sits right there on that Canadian border. So they traffic a lot of their victims internationally. And Lord forbid if, they get across the border. I feel for them. Now, parents, this is another FYI about Zoom. The FBI is saying that Zoom is the newest way that these child predators are sharing pornography, child pornography. So the FBI is asking anyone if they've been exposed to any of these sexual abuse involving children on Zoom. There's a link in the story that you can go ahead and fill out a questionnaire, but monitor your children's whereabouts and what they're doing online, because there's some sick people out there, and and Zoom apparently is the newest tool being used to show child pornography. Now our next story is out of Harlem. There's a 64-year-old woman. She's not expected to survive. I did not do an update on her, but I want women to listen up, Black women. This is why I say you need to become proactive politically and start taking these elected officials to task, start participating in city council meetings, start asking these politicians about where they stand on violence against women and children in the community. Get some of these folks off the bench. This man in Harlem that's shown on your screen is one of the people who that low to no bail reform, those bail reform advocates, because saying that bail is being used, against poverty-stricken people. It's a form of oppression or whatever. Well, that's BS. Poverty doesn't mean you automatically abuse people. These folks need to stay locked up like the animals that they are. Now, this 64-year-old woman is in a vegetative state following a vicious attack in East Harlem, and she's not expected to recover. She was attacked by this man, she was put in a chokehold for 3 minutes. He pulled her to the ground and raped her. Now, this man, Frankie Harris, 38-year-old Bushwick, he was arrested and charged with attempted murder. And once she dies, and they pull her off of this ventilator, because that's the only thing that's keeping her here is this ventilator. His charge is going to be upgraded to murder, but also rape and sexual abuse with the attack. Now, he told detectives he met the woman one night in Manhattan and had consensual sex, but that was a lie because video surveillance caught him, doing what he did. Now, the thing that I want to say why he is one of those people who got out on bail reform is because a few days before that, he had been released and arraigned on one count of forcible touching and sexual abuse of somebody. He was slapping some woman's behind and stuff back in Well, let me go back. His crime spree began 3 months earlier when they busted him in Harlem on February 6th for slapping a woman's buttocks. 2 days later, He was arraigned on one count of forcible touching and sex abuse. They set his bail at over $10,000 bond, with a little over $5,000 cash. But on February 11th, another bail hearing was held before another justice, Althea Drysdale, at the request of the defense, and she ordered him to be freed from jail and participate in a supervised release program. Less than 2 weeks later, they nabbed him again in Brooklyn after he allegedly attacked strangers on the L train, and he spit and hit a mother, threatened to kill her as her kids that were 5 and 3 watched in horror. He then punched a man in the face, spit on a second man, as he called the man, excuse my language, but he called him a Puerto Rican faggot. Now, he was arraigned 2 days later after those incidents when he went on this crazy spree. 2 days later, he was arraigned on that 16 charges, which included third-degree assault as a hate crime, aggravated harassment, endangering the welfare of a child, menacing and resisting arrest. Another woman, Hillary Gingold, the judge, she released him without bail and ordered him again to participate in another supervised release program. Now, a spokesman for the DA's office said none of the charges qualified for bail under the new bail reform laws. But with all that violence, now pay attention, all his victims were Black, Puerto Rican, Black and brown. They don't care about us. They released him back into the streets with all that foolishness he was doing. He didn't show up for his next appearance in Manhattan or Brooklyn, and he was issued bench warrants. Now, instead of them picking him up on the bench warrants, he was picked up for that brutal May 18th rape and attempted murder of that 64-year-old Black woman, which was captured on surveillance video. Now, on Tuesday, prosecutors are saying Tuesday that the victim was expected to die within days. And I haven't had any updates. But his charges are going to be upgraded to murder. But see, this is one of those candidates, bail reform, setting these monsters free back into the community. Black women sitting up always behind these things that benefit Black men and endanger Black women, girls, and children in the community. Stop protesting and marching for anything that does not benefit you. Bail reform, I'm going to say that until the day I'm no longer here. Bail reform does not benefit Black women and children. Bail reform is a political agenda by liberals to look politically correct for Black men. They want to look like they're diverse and accepting. And the thing about bail reform, it's not even helping Black women prisoners or girls who are in prison. We got Black women and girls in prison right now to this day who are in there on some BS from a man or domestic violence. So stop standing up for this bail reform, because the very next person who's freed on this bail reform crap might be you. You might be a victim of that. Now, our next story, I'm sorry, it's loading for me. Okay, is out of Norfolk, Virginia, and this is Deatrice Lawrence. She's 38, and she was murdered in Norfolk, Virginia, back on May 25th. She was shot around 10:30 Monday, and no suspects, no one knows anything. Police found her, dead from her injuries, and anyone with information is asked to call the crime line at 1-888 lock you up. And that's Deatrice Lawrence, 38-year-old Black woman. just, shameful. Every time these faces become just a part of my psyche, it's like I remember them. I feel like, these, just like people say somebody could be their son, uncle, brother, whatnot, because I'm a mother of 4 daughters. When I see these young women, sometimes, I look at them and I'm like, man, that could, these could be my daughters. Hell, it could have been me. But, it's just terrible. We don't get an outcry or an outpouring of love and support. These families just are left to pick up the pieces. Now, our next case is out of Baltimore, Maryland on May 24th, just before 7 o'clock. A police patrol car heard gunfire. And when they arrived to the scene, they found a 41-year-old man and this 42-year-old woman, Kimberly Hightower. They found them dead. And she's 42-year-old woman, just dead. Nobody knows anything, And I'm sure somebody in the neighborhood, somebody knows something. This not telling anybody something is just, if it was your family member, you want justice. I just feel that the community owes it. We owe it to one another to start being a community. Start giving justice to these victims. Start giving justice to these families. It won't bring them back, but justice will be served. And Ahmaud Arbery, I'm not really going to touch on him too much, but there's something that his mother, she, the one thing I can say about her, she's not on that forgive his killers and God be with them and all of that. She wants them to suffer. She wants them to suffer. And for so many people, who say they're religious and they know their Bible, forgiveness is just not something you have to give somebody. Because if you know your Bible or your Quran or whatnot, because they both speak about forgiveness. What they say about forgiveness is that you're not entitled to give people forgiveness, because the only way that you honestly can give forgiveness is if that person that took something from you can give it back. They can replace what was taken from you. Once you kill somebody, it's no coming back from that. You can't replace it. I'm not into that forgive and let whatever take over. I'm just not. And I think that for far too long, Black folks have laid down. Folks continue to walk all over them like a doormat. And that's why another reason that we are in the position that we're in, because we have become doormats. I don't want to hear about we're so loving and we're a peaceful people. And that's why, we welcome everybody into the community. No, you just being foolhardy. That's what it is. If you can't replace what was taken from you, you don't have to forgive these people. And I'm not on that forgiveness stuff. So one thing I can say about Ahmaud Arbery's mother is that she follows my train of thought. This next story is just a pitiful story. A 71-year-old grandmother, Miss Lucas, 71 years old, has 6 children and 4 other children that she became an adoptive mother to. She survived diabetes, coronavirus, all kinds of health issues she got over, and she got taken out by a bullet. All these health issues and different things, and she done survived all of this health scares and everything, only to be taken out by a bullet. This grandma was killed trying to stop a fight involving her granddaughter. Her life ended in the streets of a grocery store. And she said that they said that she got a call because whoever these girls, her granddaughters, had trouble with or whatever, said she met the daughter and the granddaughter outside of the store because she called herself, being there. She thought maybe her being there would they wouldn't fight. Then she stepped in between to make sure they didn't fight, and that's when a gunshot rang out. And she got hit in the head, and now she's no longer here. We don't have no respect. Black women are dying in these streets left and right, and nobody's caring. We too focused on the few people who say they get killed by law enforcement. But because it's a Black woman who gets killed, probably more than likely by another Black person, we just shrug our shoulders and, act like, that's normal. That's just not normal. I don't know. As long as I've been a nurse, even when I lose a patient and I've seen death, it still unnerves me. I just don't understand how people can act like death and murder is just a part of our culture. And, death is a part of our culture, and that, it's whatever. It's whatever. Only time we see people getting upset is if a cop kills somebody or a white person kills somebody. Then we want to raise, $1,000 worth of hell, but we don't do nothing when somebody's grandma died. This granny is dead. She dead. Now they got a reward of up to $25,000 for anyone who can give information leading to an arrest and conviction in the case. But we know it might not come. It might not come. We shouldn't even have to be offering nobody no money to turn in these killers. We shouldn't even have to do that. It's just terrible. Like I said, I lose a patient. Even to this day, if I lose a patient, I still get a lump in my throat. I get a lump in my throat, and it kind of stays with me. I don't even know if, people even experience people dying in front of them, holding their hand or something. It's just, whether it's a terminal illness or whatever. Death is this. It's just, I don't know how people have become so callous. I don't see how anybody can look at this woman and not want her to be avenged. It's, she gone. She gone because of some foolishness involving her granddaughter and somebody else. And as far as I'm concerned, that granddaughter and that daughter and whoever else was there, they know who shot this woman. They know who shot this woman, but ain't nobody saying nothing. So, do you really love your family member? You that scared, that you don't want her death to be avenged? Hell, if you got to tell and move, then that's just, it is what it is. But you ain't gonna kill one of mine and think I'm just gonna go on back home and roll over. I don't understand. I honestly, I don't understand. It's just, it's sad. That's somebody's grandma. Somebody's grandma. It could have been any one of our grandma. And the way people talk about nowadays, ain't no more grandmas. And the way folks out here killing people, it ain't gonna be no more grandmas because y'all gonna be killed up everybody. Ain't gonna be no grandmas for the future because you're killing the babies, you're killing the little girls. You mentally warping them, raping them, psychologically killing them. It's just really sick. And I'm, sometimes I just get so upset. But that's the thing that keeps me going, because it's a passion that's burning inside of me, and I'm just not going to be complacent and just say I'm so pissed off until I'm just going to throw my hands up. No, that's just fuel to keep me going. Now, this next story is a man, 27-year-old man. He was arrested in connection to a deadly shooting. We'll be seeing her next. But Lauren Mitchell, he shot her in her neck. He got into an argument with his ex-girlfriend. She didn't want to be with him no more, from what I hear, to where they were no longer together. And they got into some kind of argument. So he gonna shoot her in her neck. Then he gonna later turn himself in and trying to look pitiful on this mug shot. She's not coming back. Lauren is not coming back. Miss Lauren Mitchell is gone. 22 years old, dead in the grave, never to be heard from again. Domestic violence, Black femicide, gender-based violence. These killings of Black females, I'm trying to get Black women to come together and have these legislators come together, get your lawmakers together. These are hate crimes. If you were out here killing a white homosexual male, you would be charged with a hate crime. These are gender-based crimes against Black women, and these are hate crimes as far as I'm concerned. These are hate crimes, and they need to start enhancing charges to include gender-based violence as a hate crime. Miss Lauren Mitchell is no longer here because her selfish ex-boyfriend decided he'll just kill her, shoot her in her neck, flee the scene, and then just leave. And he'll just turn himself in later. Gone. She's one of the 340 killed, or one of the 337 Black females, Black women, Black girls killed by a Black man or a Black boy. She's one of those 337 on May 28th. Now this next one, another one out of Natchitoches, Louisiana. Ontario Pier is wanted for murdering Latrice Thomas. I'm not sure what his relationship was to her, but it was another argument of a man with a woman. He shot her, and now she's dead. And her picture is next. You'll see her, Latrice Thomas, 28, out of Natchitoches, Louisiana, gone. No longer here. Beautiful. I mean, doesn't matter how her looks are, but when we talk about queens, y'all use that word queen when y'all trying to kick game, but this is not no regal royal behavior. What are y'all? The executioner just chopping folks' head off like Marie Antoinette, because that's what it sounds like, or King Henry VIII, who killed all his wives. That's what you guys are acting like in the community. Just killing all the queens. That's why I don't let y'all kick game to me and call me queen, because 9 times out of 10, you're not acting like a king. Kings don't do this. Kings don't treat their queens like this. And again, Sheila, the next woman was again Sheila Lucas, who we already discussed her, and the next person after that is Shadia Milton, 35-year-old female Black woman out of Atlanta, Georgia, was killed on May 22nd, and she's dead, and her sister is on life support, and they were shot in an argument out in Atlanta on last Friday. And officers found her and her sister with multiple gunshot wounds. They were taken to a hospital for treatment, and both of them were in critical condition. Her sister is still in critical condition, but Miss Shadia, unfortunately, died from her injuries. And they said there was some kind of verbal dispute between the victims and whoever the suspect was, and it was a man in his 30s who's believed to be the gunman, and they said he was accompanied by another woman. He was with another woman, and they're trying to determine the circumstances of the shooting, and but they don't have any leads. All they know is that witnesses say they saw a black SUV flee the scene after the shooting. But you know, everybody, it's so funny to me how everybody has these phones and they recording fight videos, they recording when folks getting killed by the cops and everything. But when stuff like this happened, don't nobody really see nothing. Oh well, it was a black SUV. Don't nobody know the make, model, or nothing. It was just a black SUV, and might have been with a woman. He might be in his 30s. You know, it's just a sickness in our community. That's all I have to say. But you know, just be careful out here in these streets. You know, a couple more stories. You know, I'm not really gonna. We don't have to really go into them, but there's a man out in Georgia. He sliced two women up with a razor knife. Out in Georgia, two black young women. He done slashed them up with a razor knife. And what does he blame it on? Stress from the coronavirus. So he out here slicing folks up. So he charged with 2 counts of aggravated battery and aggravated assault with the attack on these 2 University of Georgia graduates. And they said they suffered severe cuts at that. So, but he blamed it on coronavirus. He said he's blaming stress from the coronavirus. That's why he attacked the 2 women. More bull crap. More bull crap. And his last story I'm going to end with is this woman fell from a Bronx fire escape during a struggle with a man who also was charged with stabbing another man later on down the street. And apparently the man who threw her off of the fire escape had drug and sex trafficking out of his apartment. No word on really too much from the victim, because when she fell and hit the ground, they said her head cracked open like an egg and she was bleeding all over the place. So, you know, again, more violence being perpetrated against Black women by Black men, and you know, it's whatever. And just you know, another day in the hood, I guess. But Black women, you better start taking stock of yourself, who you deal with, who your daughters deal with, who you bring around your children, and you know, start focusing on what really matters: your life and the life of all young women and girls who you say you care about. Stop centering Black men. Let them fight their own battles. They're men. Let the Black men of America do like all the other men in other nations, fight for each other. So, you know, that's all I have to say. Do you have anything to say, Sister Rolanda?
Sister, I do not. Hold on, sis. Sorry. I don't, sis. Every time I hear you talk, and first of all, I just have to say I'm so appreciative and so thankful for your diligence in this work. While you were talking, I went and posted that the number has gone up to 337 Black women who were murdered at the hands of Black men. And I know I do get a lot of pushback from people because I didn't drink the Kool-Aid, and I think Black men could defend themselves. Yeah. And I think there's something wrong when I'm defending you, but you're not defending me. That's unequal, and don't nobody want to hear about racism and systems and that. Don't nobody want to hear that. I'm one of those people who do not want to hear that. So, you know, it just breaks my heart, but we gotta do it. Please continue to do your work. I'm gonna always continue to support you, because if we do not ring our own bell, no one else is going to do it for us. We cannot continue to take it for the team, whatever this invisible team is. It is not okay for Black men to do the things they do to Black women in the name of, like, we supposed to be together. Like, some people don't come from abusive backgrounds. A man raised his hand and made it over. He raised his voice to me and made me over. So, you know, it's like that. It has to be no nonsense. Don't nobody want to hear about history and Black man is God. Don't nobody want to hear that. when somebody's going upside your head. Don't nobody want to hear that.
And see that my thing is when you can say the black man is God, the first thing you know, if this is God, I'll take my chances with the devil.
Now you better look. I know the devil. See, the devil is always the devil, so that's what I expect. But I don't expect that from somebody who's supposed to be my brother or my cousin or my friend, or the level of disrespect. And I also think for some young black girls, they've always been fearful because they've been watching the black man just like they've been watching us.
Exactly.
And sometimes it's not safe, and it's a safety issue as well. And we'll be so quick to guard this black man who will not do the same for us. And two, we'll be guarding him while he's doing stuff to us. Something's wrong with that. And something's wrong with us. So, sister, thank you again for joining me, sharing this information. And you know, something has to give, something will change. And I will see you next week.
All right then. Thank you, sis.
Peace. Hold on.
All right.